Newly uncovered audio tapes show that the Trump campaign back in Wisconsin in 2020 seemed pretty aware that they had lost the election, but they also knew where the spirit of the campaign and the party was going. They were just going to lie about it anyway. This is courtesy of the Associated Press. Trump Wisconsin campaign chief Andrew Iverson. You'll be able to hear him in this tape.
Going to continue to fan the flame and get the word out about Democrats trying to steal this election. We'll do whatever they need our help with. Okay, so just be on standby in case there's any stunts we need to pull.
Okay, so there's a lot out there, but the idea that it's like, I guess we'll fan the flame. We might need stunts. Not we're going to follow a reasonable, legally mandated process for there's theft that's gone on. No, it's just we're gonna fan the flames. There's crazies out there. We're gonna keep inspiring them. We're gonna pull stunts. That's what we're gonna do. It gets even worse though in the second clip.
Look, guys, at the end of the day, like this operation received more votes than any other Republican in Wisconsin history. Like, and it wasn't even close. Guys, we outperformed the president and his team by just over 200,000 votes, right? Like, say what you want. Our operation turned out Republican or DJT supporters. Democrats just got 20,000 more than us out of Dade County and by their shenanigans in Milwaukee, Green Bay, and Dane. So there's a lot that people can learn from this campaign.
Oh, well, we're learning something today, actually. No, they acknowledged we lost by 20,000 votes. It was, somewhat close, I guess, across the state, but no, it was blown out in those particular areas. It wasn't enough. They didn't have the votes, and that all, by the way, comes from the 5th of November, 2020. So this is 2 days after the election. Donald Trump is already gearing up for, a week long. Like each day, it was getting worse and worse. The denials of what had actually happened, the inspiring the crowds, which were still in the streets, by the way, in a number of different areas. Some of them telling people to count the votes, some of them telling other people not to count the votes, depending on where they were up and where they weren't. And it was clear to the people who had been charged with actually doing this campaign, making it happen, that they had lost, that it wasn't super close, but they also knew that Donald Trump was not going to accept that, and so they were prepared to be a part of that.
All right, as usual, I will have a controversial position, but I will say that this is mildly controversial. So I don't care about the stunts and the fanning the flame stuff. I know that that's the lead for a lot of people, but Republicans do different stunts during elections or after elections. Wow, that is news to me. Now look, this is what mainstream media say, both sides do it, and then I respond with, I wish. I don't know that Republican Democrats have any stunts up their sleeve at all, ever, about anything. But no, these guys having a frank conversation about what they're ready to do and what propaganda, marketing, whatever you want to put it, to do is to me not that interesting. But you see there, the head of their Wisconsin operation clearly knows they lost. They lost by 20,000 votes, and he knows it for a fact, right? Now later, of course, all Republicans would pretend that they didn't lose. To me, that's the giant story, right? And remember, it's November 5th. By the time you get all the way to January 6th, a lot of terrible stunts have happened, but they're mainly driven by Trump and the national lunatics, not necessarily the ground force in Wisconsin, et cetera. I also have thoughts about how the Democrats only won by 21,000 votes in Wisconsin and nearly lost this election. That's another interesting topic, but first, Max.
Yeah, what blows my mind here is that there are still Democrats today who say that Joe Biden should be working with these Republicans on bipartisan election protection legislation. I mean, it's delusional. These are the people who have written election denial into their 2020 platform, that they used it in 2022, and guess what? They're gonna do it again in 2024. And it's not going to stop there either. You have Donald Trump now asking for supporters who are willing to go out in the streets and physically fight for him in 2024. My only question is to the Justice Department of where do you think this ends? What is the benefit in delaying all of these investigations so long that we're allowing this to become just the political narrative? It's crazy.
Yeah, 100%. We're supposed to hope that they're gonna find this perfect middle ground between, well, it can't be right before the midterms and we're busy afterward, but if we wait too much longer, then it's really close to the 2024 election, so I guess you can't do anything then. There are all these massive periods where nothing can happen. Have you noticed that? And it kind of feels like that they're strung along end to end off into eternity, at least insofar as Merrick Garland seems to understand the severity of the situation.
No, I'm gonna jump in on that. Yeah, are you kidding me? Yeah, here, I got breaking news. Democrats aren't gonna do anything. First of all, fill in the blank on any issue, okay? But certainly on this issue. Voting rights, the number one issue, easiest thing to do, every Democrat agrees, and they couldn't get the bare minimum passed. They're not gonna do anything. Here's the sign that they're not going to do anything. As Max pointed out, they're waiting for permission from the Republicans. Newsflash, they're the ones who tried to steal the last election. They're not exactly interested in election integrity. I mean, you will only say that if you're one of the dumbest people on the planet, or you know that you don't want to do anything, and so you use the Republicans as an excuse. Oh, golly gee, the people who tried to steal the election and do a coup, they don't want to fix the election integrity issues. Well, I would have never known. I mean, is Merrick Garland and Joe Biden that stupid? I don't know, you tell me, maybe.
Yeah, but what if Joe Biden has them over for lunch at the White House again?
Oh, that'll do it. Remember when Obama did the beer summit?
That's true.
Oh man, that's when the fever broke and the Republicans became more reasonable.
Yeah. I think that's when the fever broke and then they molted into Donald Trump. I want to ask you a question though about your controversial position. Maybe maybe you don't put the blame, I guess, on them, so you're speaking specifically about Donald Trump. But when I think about them fanning the flames and all that and their stunts, like the initial stunts, some of them were just, embarrassing, I guess, but there were a lot of like election workers who were like wildly harassed with death threats and all that. Like even like Raffensperger and all that, his wife was getting death threats and places were shot at. And like the January 6th was one of their stunts as a result of them fanning the flames. So I think, now look, it might be that Andrew Iverson didn't do that, but if that's so, it's only because Andrew Iverson was not asked to.
Yeah.
Andrew Iverson would have done whatever was asked of him. He just wasn't influential enough nationally to have been the guy to call for Mike Pence to be hung. But he was clearly on board for whatever they were going to allow him to do.
I don't know that that's clear. So I'm going to make the distinction between three different types of Republicans. Republican leaders, so Trump, the pundits as well, Tucker Carlson, et cetera, the people setting the agenda, right? Republican soldiers like Iverson, and then Republican voters. So the level of culpability is very, very different at each level. Remember guys, I know it's near impossible to believe, but 66% of Republican voters genuinely believe that Trump won the election and the vote was rigged and Biden cheated. Now, for the rest of us, we know that there were 60 court cases, they didn't present any evidence, they're total and utter liars. But those folks, they don't know it. And it's become like a religion. First, all they heard was right-wing media. Those are the right-wing leaders that I'm talking about, telling them stolen, 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 and they believed it 100%. By the time they heard it wasn't stolen, they had already been inoculated to the actual evidence. And they had a talking point for every single piece of evidence. Oh, 60 judges in a row, including Republican judges, including Trump judges. They were intimidated by black people. They were afraid they were gonna get killed by black people if they voted the other way. Like, okay, so are the Republican voters not guilty? No, of course they're guilty. I mean, who would believe such a terrible talking point, such a weirdly, obviously racist talking point, and it's nonsensical. But whether we like it or not, they think we lost our democracy back then because Trump had actually gotten more votes, okay? So, but when you go to, then you go to the Republican soldiers like Iverson. Remember, the critical fact for me here as to why I'm not blaming him that much is because it's November 5th. If he's part of a fake elector plot in December or January, no, then he's 100% guilty. But on November 5th, they haven't even planned the coup yet. The coup is not January 6th. The coup is the fake electors, right? So when you go to do the fake electors, anyone involved in the fake elector plot, I would have already put in prison, probably for the rest of their lives. But Merrick Garland's like, what is a prison? Can I buy a clue? Can I call a friend? What is a prison? I don't. What is a Republican? The real guys who are super, super guilty, of course, are the leaders, and predominantly Trump and guys like Bannon and Navarro that planned the fake elector plot. The fact that they're not in prison is itself a crime. I mean, so now next time any coup is possible. But this dude's a rando foot soldier after the election going, yeah, we lost, we obviously lost. Oh, by the way, they also joke around about, hey, it's the first time they ever talked to black people, and that was a new thing for them. But I'm used to Republican foot soldiers being idiots. And look, let's think for a minute on this. We all, yes, 7 million more votes for Joe Biden, right? But almost all the 7 million were on the coast, a lot of where we live, right? So some of you obviously live in the middle of the country, but a lot of the progressives live on the coast, right? In the middle of the country, I mean, the Electoral College, Biden only won by 43,000 votes, 21,000 was in Wisconsin. Democrats nearly blew it. They nearly lost to Trump twice, even though he's a clown maniac. Okay, but don't worry, they're gonna run the same guy again. So, yeah, good luck.
I'm gonna add just one more.
At some point, I just have to ask. I agree with you that there's distinctions here, but if you don't handle these foot soldiers, then they come back the next cycle. They become lieutenants, and then they become captains. And at some point, we're sort of making a distinction between different kinds of venomous snakes. And we don't want democracy to get bit by any of these people. The challenge, as you said, is the DOJ doesn't seem to take this as a crisis.
Yeah, and it might be that we'll never hear from him again or whatever. He is apparently right now, though, the Midwest Regional Director for the Republican National Committee. And they had a fun little game that they played when this whole thing was revealed, and it's incredibly damning. That at least, as you know, in the early parts of the effort to overturn the election, and bear in mind, Donald Trump had already been saying for months, and many of the Republican pundits have been saying for months, they're gonna steal the election, they're gonna steal the election, they're gonna steal the election. They reached out to him for questions. He deferred questions to the RNC. Okay, so he's not gonna answer it, even though he's the guy on the tape. The RNC spokesperson, Keith Schipper, declined to comment because he hadn't heard the recording. Oh, so I guess we're good then. I guess we're just gonna move on. You couldn't listen to it clearly and then answer. And the first guy, he doesn't have to answer because he told the guy who hadn't read it, he hadn't listened to it to answer. So I guess we're good. And if I had been involved in the opening steps of a movement that resulted in the attempted sacking of the Capitol and multiple people had died, and you asked me, hey, do you regret any of what you look like you were actively participating in? And I just said, go talk to someone else. We're good. We're good with that guy. I don't know. I kind of feel like I would want to be on the record as, no, I don't believe this massive conspiracy theory that the election had been stolen. But sure, he isn't Donald Trump. Donald Trump and others are obviously more culpable.
Here at TYT, we work to cut through all the establishment media's biases and bring you the news from a factual and progressive viewpoint. Now allow me to introduce you to Ground News, a new tool that you can use to stay informed on what's really going on around the world. Ground News doesn't just bring you the information, it also provides you with an easy to use rating system that measures each article's political leanings, factuality, and gives you complete transparency on who owns the news that you're reading. Like today, I was on their site and I saw an article about some improvements in the ozone layer. And I was a little skeptical because good news about the climate is pretty rare these days. But with over 100 sources originating from an even spread of news organizations, I was confident that what I was reading was true. So score one for Earth. So get the whole picture and break through the corporate media agenda by subscribing to Ground News today.